The United States seriously needs to reclaim its government. It really does. And you've got to get out of this war. If there's going to be any hope of survival at all, you need to identify that you've got a real problem in the United States. This government is out of control. It's a coup. There's been a coup in the White House. It's been taken over by a foreign power. That foreign power has now been pretty much decimated. There are still fanatic Kabbalists in there who believe in this whole prophecy and all this shit. And like you were saying before, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in religion, you don't believe in Kabbalistic Jews or any of this sort of stuff. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. They do. And they are implementing this, and it is affecting your life right now.
Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very much for being here. That was Max Igan in part one of this two-part interview. We went about 2 hours today. In fact, longer than that because we kept talking even after I officially said goodbye. And I agree with Max pretty much across the board. In fact, we're resonating at the same frequency, even though we haven't talked in just about a decade. And in this one, we do cover what appears to be the coup of the White House by Zionists. But with that said, there was a tweet today from Cliff High saying, I am a Luongo fan. He's talking about Tom Luongo in this interview. And I know Luongo is one of those folks who sees our cup as at least half full, if not more so. So I will listen to this interview and provide some color commentary in part two. And I pray Luongo's right. But at this point, CNN says Trump has 100% support from his MAGA base, and that's North Korea levels of propaganda, folks. So thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for part one. Part two of this interview with Max Igan will post very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, friends. Before we start, just a quick word about a valued sponsor. War with Iran and the closure of the Straits of Hormuz isn't going to help. New numbers out of Washington show inflation is on the rise again. Another threat to you, your savings account, and your retirement. Ask yourself an honest question. Does your dollar go as far as it did 10 years ago? How about 5 years ago? How about yesterday? So what does the next decade look like for you and your savings? If your portfolio lacks exposure to gold, one of history's most reliable economic hedges, it's time to rethink your strategy. Gold has kept up with inflation and in many periods outpaced it. Our friends at Noble Gold Investments specialize in helping people protect their wealth with physical gold and silver. Whether you're rolling over an IRA or making a direct purchase, their team walks you through the entire process and they'll make it simple. No pressure, just education and experience. Right now, all new qualified accounts will receive a free 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagle as a thank you. There are no guarantees in any investment decision, so work with a trusted financial advisor. And then visit noblegoldinvestments.com or sgtreportgold.com and discover how easy it is to protect your financial future. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. The link is below. Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very, very much for being here. Sean from SGT Report. Guys, I couldn't be more excited to bring on this guest. And before we get started, though, I just want to point out, as I tweeted this morning, newsflash, this fallen world is basically hell to those of us who can see. Nothing but endless lies and corruption and endless paper under the control of bloodthirsty, Baal-worshipping Canaanites who traffic in our children and send our sons to die in their sacrificial wars. You can find precious little respite in hell on earth. Silver down about 10% today, gold down, and that's fine, guys. Nobody needs to run to the metals to save their lives. I think at this point, what we need to worry about is our souls. Now, more on that in just 1 second. As more Pravda BS for the guy in the White House who enjoys 100% approval from his MAGA base, according to CNN. The New York Post reporting Republicans overwhelmingly back Trump over Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly on Iran war, according to a poll, the same phony baloney poll that says Trump enjoys 100% approval from his MAGA base. Meanwhile, according to Polymarket, Trump's approval rating hit a new low this week of 15.3%, making him literally the most unpopular president ever. So, if 100% of MAGA still supports him as CNN claims, and he claims, who then is MAGA? I guess we're down to Laura Loomer, Mark Levin, Ashton Forbes, Gunther Eagleman, Insurrection Barbie, and the rest. Max Egan is here from the Crow House on Rumble and BitChute. He's back on YouTube as well to help me break it down. Max, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Sean. It's good to talk to you again, brother. It's been a long time.
Hey, man, it is wonderful to see you. And you're in Mexico as we're having this conversation, correct?
I am in Mexico. I'm actually on Jeff Berrick's ranch, which is very kind of him to let me do that.
It is. And it was fun to reconnect with Jeff twice over the last 6, 7 months. Haven't spoken to him in over 10 years. And I'm not sure exactly how we all lost contact, but I know that when you left Australia under the tyranny of the Crown, really, one of the crown states of the British Royals, you fled Australia for your life because they were probably going to jail you for speaking too much truth about COVID and the pandemic and the lockdowns, right, Max?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just had this feeling that I should leave. Things were getting really bad. I was having these intuitive callings to leave, and they were getting really intense. I thought, okay, well, I've always listened to my intuition, so I'll just go. And I did, and I delayed a couple of weeks before leaving and then ended up going, okay, that's it, I'm going. I'm getting these callings to leave. So I booked a flight and I was gone 3 days later. And then 1 week after I left, they came looking for me at my sister's house. They shut all my bank accounts down and just did a whole bunch of really bad stuff. They continued looking for me for about 6 months. And then when they couldn't find me, suddenly we saw a police officer shot in Queensland, and we saw this whole event staged whereby they were able to vilify half of the resistance in Australia. I think they were probably going to try to set me up or something like that, but it was just this intuitive feeling that I had to leave, and it was completely right because they came looking for me virtually within the week after I left.
Well, your timing was good, and you've spent the rest of your time since kind of living as a nomad, traveling. Now you're in Mexico, and you've got this great relationship with Jeff Berwick. What is life like in Mexico under the Jewish president Claudia Sheinbaum? Maybe just compare and contrast Mexico today to the Australia you left.
It's still better than Australia. It's still much better than Australia, even with the Jewish president. Like Australia has gone next level. They just introduced new legislation just about a week ago, I think, which basically gives the Australian Federal Police, the ASIO, which is basically the CIA of Australia, gives them power to just arrest anybody they want. You don't have the right to remain silent. You don't have the right to a lawyer. They can just take you and they can incarcerate you on a whim for anything they want to do, and you basically have no recourse to that. So it's absolute like full-on Stasi legislation that has just been brought in Australia. Now, I think if I was to go back to Australia now, I'd very likely get arrested straight at the airport as soon as I arrived. I went back there in March last year. I spent 3 months there to see my son and tidy up a few loose ends. They detained me for 3.5 hours in customs, getting through customs, going through all of my stuff with a fine-tooth comb. Didn't find the stuff that would have incriminated me, which was crazy that they didn't find it. Like basically, they took one of my cell phones, and because of content that was on the cell phone, which they actually downloaded. It was a WhatsApp message. But if they'd looked at my laptop, they would have found all my video editing and all the stuff that I do on my laptop. But they didn't see my laptop in my laptop bag. They took everything out of this bag except for the laptop. I don't know how they didn't see it. I mean, it's a laptop bag. But yeah, that's. I just think the universe kind of looks after me. I get these intuitive messages, and then I get in situations where I could easily be incarcerated. It just works, and I kind of breeze through it. But now I think if I were to go back there now, I would probably get arrested at the airport as soon as I arrived.
I suspect that is the case. And in Mexico, do you feel the threat of the cartels? I've been obviously to Mexico multiple times. I never feel like we're under threat, and I just want your thoughts on, you sort of lived through what I would call maybe a false flag in Puerto Vallarta recently.
Yeah, yeah, in Puerto Vallarta. That was I was out there with a selfie camera walking around while it was going off. While there was explosions going off, there were
Yeah, I
vehicles
saw that. I
burning in
saw
the
that.
street. I'm walking around in the camera and I'm thinking, there's nothing really going on here, man. I'm seeing a few cartel guys and I'm seeing this and I'm seeing that. But what it really was a whole bunch of burning vehicles strategically placed around the town. So it looked like from a distance, smoke coming up everywhere. It looked like the whole place was a war zone. That's what it looked like. And you're hearing all these things. They've burned down the Costco. They've burnt down the church. They've burned down the Soriana, all these different things, which they hadn't. They simply set fires in the car parks of all the cars in these places to make it look like it was this huge event. And they did it pretty much across a lot of Mexico. Most of Mexico experienced this. But the whole thing was just a false flag. It lasted 6 hours, then it was all gone. The police didn't show up at all. I'm staying in town right around the corner from a military base. They didn't even come out, and we're being told they're going to come and start knocking on doors and shooting tourists and all sorts of stuff. None of it happened. It was just this big nothing burger designed to say, yes, we desperately need the United States to come in here and fix the cartels for us. And Claudia Sheinbaum needs Trump's assistance and all this sort of stuff, just to create the whole specter of that. But it didn't work. And the Mexican people just kind of laughed it off and said, well, this is a nothing burger. So, yeah, it was a completely staged event, completely false flag attack. There was no real cartel violence. Even the way they took some cartel leader or whatever, I mean, whether this was contrived as well, I don't know. I don't trust anything that I see from the media at all anymore. But Mexico's great. It's really good. And I feel a lot safer here than I do in pretty well any Western country.
When you mentioned that you felt the calling, the pull to leave Australia, you've had that inner voice at the time and you heeded the warning. I think that was very prescient. It was very smart. Obviously, in hindsight, you did the right thing. I've actually been feeling the same pull and hearing the same voice in regards to leaving the United States. But I'm here for the fight. I'm here for the long haul. And that might be a fool's errand because it does appear as though our government has been completely hijacked. And I want to turn our attention to the elephant in the room. Harrison Smith over at InfoWars is somebody who I respect. He is speaking the truth about much of what we're seeing. And last night he tweeted this. Now, I don't know who Highly Censored Steve is, but Harrison Smith retweeted this. This is what just happened. Quote, "This is an historic moment. A highly credible U.S. spy chief states how Israel has staged a coup in the Oval Office." Given that Tucker Carlson just sat down with former counter-terror chief Joe Kent in an amazing interview, and I want to play Dan Bongino melting down over just one part of that interview in just 1 second, Lauren Witzke noted, "It's crazy because this is exactly what happened." Okay, here's what's going to happen if it hasn't already, folks. As the result of Joe Kent's resignation letter, the Israel mob is now holding Zoom meetings and phone calls about Joe Kent's statements. They will begin delegitimizing his statements. They will begin an investigation into Joe Kent's life and try to character assassinate him. The Israeli mob will push their allies and U.S. officials to publicly condemn Kent's statements, isolating him. And the Israeli mob will begin facilitating lies about Kent, including fabricating evidence to put the man in prison. Watch how quickly this happens. These people are mobsters. Now, before I play this clip from Dan Bongino having an absolute meltdown by something very specific Joe Kent mentioned, I just want to get Max's thoughts on everything I just shared, or anything I just shared, Max.
Look, there was a coup in the Oval Office years ago. Israel controls the United States government, and most especially since Trump came in. Even with that whole fake assassination, and I don't care if anybody says it's real, you can think that if you want to. That was a fake assassination attempt. You don't get shot across the ear and have your ear just grow back and recover like that. A bullet close enough to the ear to draw blood would have blown the corner of his ear off, and it didn't. That was a fake assassination. You understand the whole ritual where the right ear's got to be pierced so you can become a willing servant to Israel and all of this sort of stuff.
Can I interrupt? Now, I just learned that over the past several days. I just learned that what you're saying is part of a ritual that the Jews do like to perform. And in this case, if this is their chosen asset to help usher in their Antichrist, Donald J. Trump, he had to be marked as a slave to the Jews by piercing his right ear, I believe, and that's what we saw. And when you all were saying that after the Butler, Pennsylvania turkey shoot, which I thought was Dealey Plaza 2.0, I called y'all nuts. I said, look, there's a lot of you in the space that were calling that a false flag at the time, and I rejected that out of whole cloth. Mea culpa on me, Max.
But like the first non-Jewish Messiah, Cyrus, who was chosen to assist the Jews in reestablishing themselves in the land of Israel after their 70-year exile in Babylon, the current non-Jewish Messiah was chosen to be of service to the Jewish people and the Jewish Messiah. President Trump's right ear was grazed in a symbolic gesture of Exodus 21:6, where the Torah states that a servant who wants to remain with his master needs to have his right ear pierced.
Mea culpa on me. it looks like I was wrong. It looks like Trump is their willing servant. And I just want to say
Well,
that on the record. I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong if I'm wrong.
I totally respect you saying that, Sean. I really do. But don't feel bad about it. I mean, 90%, 95% of the resistance, the truth movement, so-called truth movement, fell for it. They fell onto the Trump train. They thought, because Trump said all the right things, he's going to take down the deep state, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And then the assassination attempt, all sorts of stuff. Oh, wow, they're trying to get him out because he's working against the deep state. They created a very, very believable scenario. But I just didn't, I just saw through it. I went, no, this is bullshit. This is all part of the script, And I totally respect you for coming out and saying, hey, I was wrong on that, because Trump is absolutely working for Israel. Everything he's just done, I mean, everything that came out with the Epstein files, it's crazy when you see just what this is encompassing. I mean, I've said for years and years, people need to stop thinking of the world as governments and nations and realize it's a multinational, multi-generational criminal cabal, and you're living in a people farm. That's what's going on. All this has come out with the Epstein files now. We know that it's all connected. All of it's connected. There's so much theater involved. And everything Trump's doing now, he's doing at the behest of Israel. And I really think that they've hung him out to dry. They've set this whole thing up, and they're going to basically let Trump take the fall for it. There's every indication that Benjamin Netanyahu is dead and Ben-Gvir is dead. The videos that we've seen released by Benjamin Netanyahu, like almost every day he's putting out a video. These are all provably AI videos. There's one where he's walking along the hallway with Huckabee. And he's got 2 ear canals in his left ear. Go and check it out. 2 ear canals.
I saw that. No, I saw it.
Here's the part with his head, his shapeshifter head. Watch his head shift.
Oh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's not the same guy. Even Grok, what was the actual context of this conversation between Mike Huckabee and Netanyahu? This is a satirical AI-generated content.
It's nuts. The one where he's sitting in the war room, the lighting on him is completely different to the lighting and everybody else in the room. And everyone's looking around the room, sitting there looking really depressed and freaked out. Nobody actually looks at Benjamin Netanyahu. He's lit completely differently. It's a composite video. This is all AI. I would suspect that either Benjamin Netanyahu is dead, or he's done a runner and he's just hiding wherever it is they're keeping Jeffrey Epstein or whoever, whether he's even dead, but we won't even get into that. But
can I interrupt though, and just back up on one other, the coffee shop video featuring Bibi, the one that came out, I think first
total
or second.
fraud.
It was like a proof of life video. But if you look at his pocket, where his hand goes into the pocket actually morphs as the hand goes into the pocket. Number one. Number two, somebody smart and sleuthy over on X pointed out, why would Bibi Netanyahu travel some 5 hours into the mountains to go to this coffee shop to make a proof of life video when he could have done it from a bunker somewhere more safe? It makes zero sense.
Yeah, and there's another one where he's on the lookout and his ring disappears on his finger. And what's he doing at a lookout? There's a war going on. This guy's going pick up coffee at a coffee shop, and he's just wandering around a lookout and looking real happy, like he's just having a Sunday afternoon out. No, it's all of this stuff just shows you that he's probably dead, and Ben-Gvir is probably dead as well. There was a video that just came out of Ben-Gvir showing the new execution room he's cooked up for the Palestinians. That video is AI as well. And Trump has been thrown under a bus with all this, and I don't think anybody expected the response they're getting from Iran. Even if sorry, you can even look at this and be conspiratorial about it and say, okay, well, it's one big club. They're all working together. Everybody's involved. Iran's as much involved as everybody else. And what this is all about is to bring down the US. Okay, there's that perspective of it. But people don't understand Iran's defense system. Iran has been waiting for 48 years for the United States to attack it. It watched what they did to Libya. It watched what they did to Saddam Hussein. It watched what they did to other countries. And it's realized you cannot have a central command, because as soon as they take out the head of your command, they've won the war against the country, which is what they tried to do with Iran. They bombed the presidential palace straight away, took out the supreme leader straight away, first strike, right? And then they bombed the school, killing 175 children. And they double tapped it, because those children at that school that was an elite school, very good private school, where most of the generals and military personnel, their children went there to that school. So they bombed the school, then they waited 40 minutes for the parents and the rescue teams to arrive, and then they bombed it again. hoping that they would take out the high command of Iran. They took out about 1,000 people that are connected to the high command, but they don't understand how Iran works. When Iran saw what happened to its neighbors, it set up what is known as a mosaic defense system, whereby there are 31 different provinces. Each province has its own military leader with his own arsenal, his own intelligence, his own supply of weapons, and he acts independently, operates independently. As soon as the leadership in Iran is taken out, then that kicks all of these different 31 bases into action. So even if they had a deal whereby we're going to do this, blah, 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 that the Ayatollah's involved because everyone's part of the same club, well, they took out that guy straight away on the first strike. And these 31 cells that are operating now are going to keep pounding Israel, and they're going to keep pounding US assets in the Gulf until they receive a word from Central Command to stop. Central Command no longer exists. Now that this system has been turned on, it is going to go until a set of predetermined directives are realized. So what happened when they took out Central Command? Everyone got an envelope. Okay, you're activated. There's a sealed envelope. You open that envelope and there are your directives for your command. This is what you do, and you keep going until you receive word from us to stop, because that's how we're going to survive the country. The Iranians know that they're in an existential war. They are in a war for their literal survival of the Persian people. And their demands that they have given to the United States and to Israel, they want regime change in Israel. They want a complete restructuring of the Israeli government. They want every single US base removed from the Persian Gulf forever. And they want $500 billion in compensation for the last 48 years of sanctions and the hardship you've caused to the Iranian people. $500 billion payment for sanctions in retribution or whatever. Now, this is their demands, and they're saying if these demands are not met by April the 10th, then we will just go hard. We'll put Chinese bases and Russian bases on Iranian soil, and we will keep going until one of us is destroyed. So they're not going to back down. The only way to get out of this war now, because like Israel is obliterated, it's literally obliterated. The amount of missiles that they're sending in there, Iran is sending in something like between 50 and 120 waves or missiles every day, right? They've sent like 64 waves of missiles in 20 days, 20 days this war's been going. Each missile wave has between 20 and 150 missiles in the wave. Each missile has between 20 and 80 warheads that spread out over an area of about 6 to 8 kilometers. So that's the damage that they're doing to Tel Aviv. And they're bombing it around the clock. And they're not stopping because they have got no word from Central Command to stop, because Israel destroyed Central Command. So they're just going to keep going until someone surrenders. Their demands now, they want the United States completely out of the Persian Gulf forever. They are going to keep fighting because they know it's an existential war. They are not prepared to negotiate. They don't want a ceasefire. They want the United States gone, and they want to do enough damage to Israel and to the United States so that they learn that they should never, ever attack Iran again. That's their stance on this. And that's what people don't realize. They're not going to back down at all. When the United States or Israel, just yesterday or the day before, bombed the South Pars oil field, the gas field, this is going to cause a mass loss of energy for the entire world, because that will require a response from Iran. Now that Israel has done that, that will require a response from Iran. People say, well, Israel's got the Samson option. They've always said that if it looks like they're going to be destroyed, they'll nuke the entire planet. I don't think they will ever do that, because I don't think nuclear weapons actually are real. I don't. I've seen no evidence of the actual existence of nuclear weapons any time in my life. Nuclear weapons, even if they were real, they destroy all business. They make a country polluted, radioactive. You can't go there. Nothing is usable anymore. They serve no purpose, nuclear weapons. However, the threat of nuclear weapons is a very, very useful tool. Yeah. I don't think they will nuke Iran. I don't think they will nuke the world. But when you consider the Samson option, the fact that Israel has said if we are under threat, we'll take the rest of the world with us. Well, if they don't have nuclear weapons, a good way to carry out that and to achieve that goal would be to bomb the South Pars oil field, or the gas field, what they've done, destroy all the world's energy and stop the flow of energy, which will cause mass starvation, mass economic collapse, People don't realize what we are actually on the brink of here. This is a complete change in the power structure of Earth. Israel is gone. Forget it. They're not going to have their greater Israel project. Israel will be lucky to ever recover and to even exist after this war. And the United States is not going to be able to maintain its position as the global superpower, the holder of the world reserve currency. The whole world has looked at this and gone, this is ridiculous. This war is ridiculous. It's a fraud. It's illegal. Trump had no right to go in there. What, because what, threats are imminent? The attacks, Iran's going to attack us? Bibi's been saying this since 1985, you know? Why would anyone choose to believe him now? It's because they've got so much dirt on Trump. The stuff that came out with the Epstein files. I mean, I don't even call these people government anymore. I call them baby eaters. It's like the Australian government's just brought in this new legislation. What the Australian Baby Eaters Association is what it is. It's not a government. It's a baby eaters association. That's what the United States government is. That's what the British government is. That's what all of these governments are. Okay, these people kill, rape, torture, and eat children. Why are we doing what they say? You know, the only way to stop this war is for the United States to surrender and say, okay, we did the wrong thing, we're sorry, we'll pay you retribution, or for the entire military to quit and go home. That's the only way to stop what's coming, Sean. And we are at a brink of a new world. We're not going to be going back to the way things were after this conflict.
Well, a couple of thoughts, and I want you to help me provide some of the nuance of this overall story, because I think there are nuances here we should try to break down. But I do want to share with folks that there are reports of defections, actual defections happening within the U.S. military. The number is over 50, reportedly, of people who have gotten off these ships at port and not returned. Some of them fled to Cyprus. But look, I don't think most of the enlisted people in the U.S. military want this war. Now, enlisted numbers surged after Trump got elected because he promised no new wars in the Middle East, specifically no war with Iran. And here we are, Max. Now, what I want to share with the audience as we talk about the nuance here, we're going to talk about the House of Rothschild. Okay, look at this video from Jake Shields. He says, this is Tel Aviv and it's beautiful to see. Here's the nuance I want to provide, because I know it's easy to have these feelings when it feels like, you know, the heart of evil is in Israel because of the genocide in Gaza. All right, we can all see that with our own eyes. So it feels like this has come up for these people. But I want to point out there are a lot of good people in Israel that were standing up to Bibi Netanyahu and the Zionist entity. Some of them were marching in the streets on a regular basis. So I just want to point out that the nuance in this story to me, Max, is that the people, the real controllers of the world, they ain't here. They're not the ones getting blown up. The House of Rothschild, they're secure, probably with off-grid technology that we used to have hundreds of years ago. So even when they crash all of the energy in the world and bring down the grid, they'll be fine, at least until the people show up and drum them out of their bunkers. I wanted to provide that nuance because I don't like to see anybody die in war. And we're just on the cusp of potentially a world war, Max.
We are. We absolutely are. And yeah, I don't like seeing people die. I mean, you get this sense of gratification seeing what's happening to Israel, you know, F-A-F-O, you know, figure around and find out. That's what happens. But again, you don't want to see people dying. There are innocent people in Israel, and we don't like to see death in any of them. I mean, none of this is necessary. But what I was saying before, I mean, the Samson option, they've basically just enacted the Samson option now by taking out that gas field, which is going to bring down all of the energy supplies all around the world. And you're going to have a massive depopulation event happen. We've got mass famine and stuff coming. I mean, oil prices are surging through the roof. Gold and stocks and silver and everything is crashing. Crypto's crashing. This has all been done by design, brother. It really has. But I think it's been done in such a way that I don't think Iran is playing the game they want Iran to play, because they took out the leader. They've massively insulted the entire country with what they've done. And I don't think even the Rothschild mechanism, the Epstein bloc, as I call it, who's really running this war, I call this a war of the free world against the Epstein bloc. I don't think they've really taken into account what Iran's going to do. And this is going to be a major shift in power, in world power. And the best thing the United States could do at the moment would be to back down. The military just refused to serve. Now, this is an illegal war. The military, you guys signed up to protect your country and defend your country. By going to this war, you are effectively destroying your country, because this war will destroy the United States if it's allowed to continue, because Iran will not back down. You know, America spent trillions upon trillions of dollars and about 100 years of time building up all of those bases in the Middle East. They're all gone. They're all going to be, if they're not completely destroyed already, then they will be. Israel is not going to exist as the type of state that it was. Their Greater Israel project is not going to work. And you're right, the leaders aren't running around. Even when you see the Iranian leaders and stuff, some of them get killed, but they're out there walking in the streets with the people.
Yeah.
The United States and Israel, their leaders are hiding in bunkers and hiding in the White House and hiding in places. They're not out there walking around the streets with the people.
Sorry for a quick break, guys. We've all seen the headlines about those miracle weight loss shots, but the 2026 data is officially in, and it's a wake-up call. A major analysis revealed that once people stop taking those injections, they regain an average of 60% of the weight within a year. Even worse, most of that gain is pure fat, but the muscle they lost stays gone, leaving them with a crashed metabolism and a body that's functionally older than when they began. That's why I know you're going to be obsessed with today's sponsor, GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of using needles to override your body's system, it uses clinically studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to help your body naturally boost its own hunger control signals. You'll get the same fullness and fewer cravings, but without the scary side effects or the metabolic rebound. GLP-1 Elevate supports your goals while protecting your muscle, so you can actually keep the results for good. To celebrate Valentine's Day, get 50% off GLP-1 Elevate at trimwithsgt.com. Every order includes a complete support bundle with free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and free express shipping on subscriptions. Head to trimwithsgt.com right now to claim your 50% discount before it expires. The link is below.
Even when you see the Iranian leaders and stuff, some of them get killed, but they're out there walking in the streets with the people.
Yeah.
The United States and Israel, their leaders are hiding in bunkers and hiding in the White House and hiding in places. They're not out there walking around the streets with the people.
You know, we
so
just heard today, actually, I just saw on X today, Max, that some high-level cabinet members have been moved to more secure military facilities in the United States. I want to share this, too, and get your thoughts on it because, you know, the circle, the wagons, kind of trust the MAGA plan crowd. Well, they're out in force, and I just want your thoughts here on American Pravda. CNN literally yesterday claimed that Donald J. Trump has a 100% approval from his MAGA base, but obviously the MAGA base does not include, and they kind of note this actually in the report, that the MAGA base does not include the dissenters like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, those extremely popular podcasts. Candace Owens, 3.2 million downloads a day. Those people weren't part of this poll. But now I want to just break down, and you can comment on that, Max, but then I want to break this down. Dan Bongino, the coward, absolutely losing it at the mere mention of the cover-up of Charlie Kirk's assassination. We'll play that clip in just 1 second, but 100% approval rating only seen in North Korea previously, Max.
Yeah, I'd say that's like you said at the start, that'd be Laura Loomer and Mark Levine and probably Pete Hegseth, and that's who they did the poll with. Like obviously not any real people, because I don't know how anybody could be approving of Trump at the moment. Even his cabinet is not approving. Like you've got guys in his cabinet quitting. The military are mutinying. Nobody wants this war. Everyone can see it's a complete fraud. It's completely wrong. Trump has gone in completely over his head. He's obviously gone in and attacked Iran without any comprehension of what their defense system is like. And they have tens of thousands of missiles in hidden silos. They don't even have missile silos. They're all deep underground. They're like 500 meters underground in bunkers that are completely hidden, just on the desert floor. You can't even see it. They just shoot up out of the desert floor and away they go. There's no way to even take this out and stop this mechanism now it's in place. So I don't know how this guy could possibly have 100% approval rating. He looks like a cowed little dog when you see him in videos now. Like really, he looks like he's, oh my God, he's lost it. An interesting thing I saw as well, like a lot of people have been saying they're going to assassinate him. And I've been wondering about this as well, whether they're going to take him out. I saw an article on MSNBC the other day, and the name of the article was, what would happen to Ivana, or what's Melania? What would happen to Melania if Trump suddenly died in office? I thought that's an interesting article for the mainstream media to just be planting that little seed in people's minds. So who knows what's going to happen for this? Because I mean, he's pretty much outlived his usefulness. The United States is just sailing into this war zone, and it's like there's no captain on the ship at the moment. So
Yeah.
crazy stuff. But I'm very interested to see that Dan Bongiorno clip. Yeah.
Yeah, let's play it because Dan Bongino, look, I'm no fan. And I got to say that after he left the FBI in disgrace after what, 11 months, not doing much of anything other than redacting the names of the clients in the Epstein files, he's turned particularly vicious against anybody who stands up against the lies of Pravda, CNN, and doesn't support these endless wars and wants answers to who actually murdered Charlie Kirk. So, I continue to say, Max, that three of the most important stories in the world are all interconnected. The Charlie Kirk assassination on September 10th, 2025, who done it, who actually done it. Epstein, the Epstein client list, the clients that trafficked in children and murdered children. Epstein equals Rothschild. Rothschild equals Israel. Trump is in the pocket of Israel. Israel wanted war with Iran, so now we have war with Iran. Are we starting to see the big picture, guys? Here's Dan Bongino absolutely losing it the minute Joe Kent has the audacity to mention or allude to the fact that maybe there's a cover-up going on in regards to who actually murdered Charlie Kirk.
I mean, if
an attempted murder of a presidential
candidate, and then there's another assassination attempt. There's been multiple public breaches of President Trump's security over the last year.
Yeah, correct.
And then, Charlie Kirk is killed publicly in a very horrific way, and we're not really even allowed to look into that at all.
Okay. Listen, folks. This part I have to just leave here. This is some of the most disgusting, unethical, and immoral stuff I have ever seen. Leveraging the death of my good friend, his brutal murder, his assassination, that the whole world watched in all of its horrifying gore.
I just, it's stunning to me, Max, because I know what liars are. And I've always said in regards to Trump, I don't know what lies in the man's heart, but he's saying the right things. In this case, Dan Bongino is merely running cover-up for an apparatus that was literally involved, boots on the ground involvement in the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And much of that has all but been proven true by the investigation of Candace Owens. And I know most people aren't watching that. Most of my audience isn't watching Candace. But I'm telling you, boots on the ground, military ops level assassination of Charlie Kirk, and Dan Bongino will hear nothing of it. So if anybody is using Charlie Kirk's memory to really lift himself up, if anybody's profiting from Charlie Kirk's name, it's Dan Bongino in that clip. Max?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no doubt at all that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by elements within the government, most likely Israel. He was speaking out against Israel very, very loudly. And he had an enormous amount of influence on the minds of the young people. If Charlie Kirk, and I really think that Charlie Kirk, he was living in like a Truman Show. He didn't know what was going on around him. They kept him busy all the time. He was always out there doing events. He had this whole mechanism going on behind him. One of the guys running it was siphoning money off to another organization like TPUSA. There was TPUSA something else as well, which was a combined or conjoined organization which siphoned off millions and millions of dollars. I have no doubt that Erica Kirk was his handler. And he was living in a false reality. He didn't know what was going on. He was just being fed information. Then when he started actually stepping back and looking at things, I remember that interview that someone said to him, I come from Iran, and it's not like what you say, blah, 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 blah. I've been doing this and been doing that. And he was like really stunned that this person had any type of freedom in Iran. I've been posting videos of Iran all over my X account. People walking around, women with their hair out, women wearing tights, the midriffs are showing. It's not Sharia law. It's not. People think Iran is it's just this deserty place. All the women are dressed in black and they've only got their eyes showing, and that's what it's like. It's not. It's not like that at all. We've been fed this completely false perspective and conception of what Iran is like, and it's nothing like that. And Charlie Kirk was starting to find this out, and so they took him out, because if he'd actually stood up and said, hey, Israel is doing all this shit, and he was starting to say it, he was starting to say all these anti-white NGOs and stuff, these are all funded by Israel, all this migrant crisis, it's all been funded by Israel. He was figuring it all out, so they had to take him out. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind at all that they took him out. And who knows what connections he would have found to the Epstein files if he started looking into this sort of stuff. But even the Epstein files, I mean, the fact that Epstein was blackmailing all these people, Epstein was a gopher. He was an organizer. He was just part of the crew that did it. This is what they do. They don't need blackmailing. You don't need to blackmail Trump because he loves to do what he does. All this child molesting and like having sex with 12 and 13-year-olds and stuff. There's an interview that I posted on my channel by a guy called William Sasha Riley, who talks about when he was an 8-year-old to a 12-year-old kid, some of the encounters he had with Trump, which was pretty horrific sort of stuff. And a lot of the stuff that he says in that interview, I totally think he's telling the truth. You know, if this stuff comes out, then it's going to be over for everybody. So they don't need to. Epstein was an organizer. He was a gopher. They love what they do, and they're all involved. All of them. All of these governments are all involved in this. And I think perhaps the Iranian government isn't involved. I don't know. Perhaps they had deals. Sure, they want the smart grid. They want all this other stuff. But when all this pedophilia and all this stuff came out, I don't think they want to be involved in that. And so they're just not prepared to play the game. And even the stuff you hear about child marriages and stuff in Iran, this all happened under the previous Shah. The previous Shah, they want to install his son now. The previous Shah was an absolute tyrant. He had a secret police called Savak, which was trained by Mossad and CIA. There isn't a family in Iran who didn't suffer under this brutal secret police. And it was that regime that was promoting child marriage and all that sort of stuff. You know, so all of the stories we're told about Iran are all wrong. All of the Sharia law and people having their heads cut off and their hands cut off, this was all Saudi Arabia, which was all set up by Israel. You know, they killed the true king of Saudi back in 1976, I think, King Faisal. And then they imposed the Saudi family and they turned Arabia into Saudi Arabia. And the Saudi family are crypto Jews. They created Wahhabism, this extremist version of Islam, which turned the entire world against Islam. And now look at them. They've just dropped all that. And now you've got women walking around in bikinis and it's all Western and it's like Sodom and Gomorrah, like Israel. You know, so the whole thing was a setup to get people, to get the Christians and the Muslims to hate each other and to kill each other off. And that's what this whole war is about. And because Israel is falling and it's been completely obliterated by Iran's response, that's why they've taken out this gas field. And that's why they're now going for all these energy deposits, because they know Iran will be forced to respond in kind and they'll get their Samson option. They'll be able to depopulate most of the world if they can shut down the world's energy supply.
You know, I'd like to note, too, for the audience that Iran was a peaceful, Western-leaning civilization under Mossadegh. And then the CIA toppled Mossadegh. They put in the Shah. Then the CIA sparks that 8-year war between Iran and Iraq. And it's all fomented, guys. Everything is fomented. So to point fingers at one country and say, that's the heart of evil on earth, maybe we should do some self-reflection and understand history before we make such charges. Now, I think it's interesting to watch what Joe Kent actually had to say about Charlie Kirk and the cover-up of the assassination, because here's Laura Loomer, an absolute, by the way, Max, your thoughts on Laura Loomer? I personally find her to be one of the most repulsive human beings on the face of the planet, one of the ugliest people inside and out because of what she believes and who she sold her soul to. That's my position on Laura Loomer. Your thoughts?
Oh, she just exudes evil and ugliness. She's the kind of person who looks like a goblin and the whore the goblin raped all at the same time. I don't know how she's managed to do that, but and she's repulsive in every way. Everything she says, everything she does, everything she represents, and even the way she looks, it's hideous. The whole package is just hideous.
It is. And all of these people, I call them knee benders. In her case, it's probably way worse than just bending the knee, if you get my drift. But the knee benders, Gunther Eagleman, Insurrection Barbie, all of these people, you've got the, of course, Ben Shapiro's, Mark Levin's of the world, but then the underlings like the Ashton Forbes, the people that constantly support the official narrative. And if you question any of it, you're the traitor. Well, Laura Loomer is saying Joe Kent is truly deranged. He is now trying to suggest, she writes, the Trump administration had Charlie Kirk killed for opposing war with Iran. Let's listen.
And then, Charlie Kirk is killed publicly in a very horrific way. And we're not really even allowed to look into that at all. And Charlie Kirk was one of President Trump's closest advisors, and he also advocated heavily against a war with Iran. He was in the Oval Office in the lead up to the 12-day war. I wasn't particularly close with Charlie. He was very gracious to me when I was running for Congress, very, very supportive. So we knew each other. And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small, you've been in the West Wing, it's small, it's a tight space. And he said, "Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran," very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off, and
he walked off. I should play the rest of the clip, but in fairness, let's just review, because Laura Loomer says Joe Kent is truly deranged for not wanting a war with Iran. And here we are. And let me just say, regarding Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk, I could not more highly recommend that everybody listening go watch Candace's latest from March 18th. It's 50 minutes long. You can watch it at double speed. It won't take you long, folks. And just check out her bulletproof timeline regarding Erica Kirk, her history, what we know about her, and who is paying her all of those years, because she never had a real job, folks, and nobody could understand. Nobody understands to this day how she was able to travel around the world and start charities for children in places like Romania and get the Marines involved and all these military ties in Fort Huachuca and making a movie at Fort Huachuca. Nobody can explain any of it, folks, except Candace Owens, who Laura Loomer also calls deranged.
Feed Me Incorporated will eventually become Superfeed Technologies. Superfeed Technologies is the company that both Erica's mother and Tyler Boyer are on the board of. Okay? So that's interesting that company gets formed as Erica starts dating Charlie. That company is formed, and these people know each other. These people all know each other. It's her one blind spot. She just can't. That's her one category of she can't remember is how she knows Tyler Boyer, even though he is in business with her mother and has her behind Trump in 2015. It is my personal opinion that a deal was done. When I look at the evidence, when I look at everything I'm looking at, when I see how duplicitous she was, and I know that Charlie did not know these things because I was there. I was the closest person to Charlie while he was beginning to date Erica. Okay, no one spent more time with him or spoke to him more. He did not know these things about Erica Kirk, or Erica Francevay was her name at the time. We had no idea that she was telling people that she knew the people that were in Kanye's orbit when he sent that tweet out. Something is not right. We all know something is not right, and I am just aghast at the people who are going to continue to pretend like all of this is perfectly normal.
So I agree with you 100%. Max Igan, Erica Kirk was an asset, a honeypot, an intel operative, 100% full stop.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She was his handler. Absolutely. She would have been the one who said, "Hey, look, I can't control him anymore. He's going to go ballistic and he's going to expose Israel. We've got to take him out." You know, apparently they had a pretty bad argument the day before or something as well. Apparently someone said, I can't confirm it, but someone said that he'd taken his wedding ring off.
She did.
Yeah.
That comes from Erica Kirk specifically, who tells too many stories. She talks too much. She was on with Barry Weiss. She shouldn't have done that. Like, here's the thing. These people are so off the rails, psychologically speaking, that they don't know how to emote properly like human beings. She doesn't act like the grieving widow. So therefore, Candace Owens points that out, and everybody circles the wagons around Candace Owens and says, stop questioning the grieving widow who just got put on the Air Force board by Trump, a prestigious position. She's a grieving widow, so she's qualified. Max Egan, these people have lost the narrative, and we can all see it, and yet they tell us Trump has a 100% approval rating. So this is absolutely American problem. We've totally jumped the shark.
Yeah, it's a joke. I mean, you people have really got to prepare for what's coming, like the shortages that you're going to suffer and the isolation. It was even like a couple of years ago when Trump first came in, or a year ago when he first came to office, and I was saying his policy seems to be isolationism. He's distancing himself from Europe. He's cutting ties with everybody around the world. He's insulting everybody around the world. He's working to isolate the United States because they're going to crash the United States. And that's what's coming to the United States, unfortunately. And the lack of fuel, the lack of supplies, the lack of support from around the world Everybody is distancing themselves from this. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, Trump had a little bit of respect from people, but with what he's done in Iran now, that's just all gone. The whole world is saying, no, we don't want any part of this at all. And even when saying that the Straits of Hormuz are closed, well, they're not actually closed. They're letting ships through the Straits of Hormuz, just not if you're an ally of the United States. You can't. And they're saying to France, if you want to use the Straits and get oil from here, no problem. Just expel your American diplomats from the embassy, close the American embassy and get the Americans out of your country. And then we'll let you use the Straits of Hormuz again. This is the stance they're taking. So this is really, really going to come back to the United States. Trump has basically, he's destroyed America, though it's been done by Israel from within. You know, like you say, on behest of the Rothschilds and all that sort of shit. Israel wasn't supposed to survive. They don't give a shit about the Jewish people.
That was literally my point about those bombed out streets in Tel Aviv. I just want people to remember, not everybody supported Bibi Netanyahu in this crazy warmongering. There were people in Israel, Jews, who are likely buried under rubble right now that opposed all of this. And guess what? The Rothschilds don't care. They were just using Israel and the Jew label to foster and implement this Armageddon. And literally now we hear commanders telling our troops, U.S. troops, do not be afraid. Trump has been ordained by God to bring about Armageddon, to usher in the second coming of Jesus Christ. I mean, this is madness. And by the way, I have a clip from a rabbi to play. Y'all aren't going to want to hear this. It's horrifying, but I'll play it in just 1 second. But this thing has become religious to the nth degree. And I'm a religious person. But this has no part in politics. And by the way, no man knows the day or time. So it's complete blasphemy to suggest you could bring about Armageddon and usher in the second coming of Christ. Max?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this whole thing is, I did a show maybe 6 months ago where I talked about how Christianity is being weaponized to become an instrument of war. Religion is being weaponized to become an instrument of war. They did this with Islam, and now they're doing it with Christianity. And they're saying this is a holy war and all this sort of crap. And I played a clip by Frank Zappa in 1985 where he was saying that he's afraid that the United States is going to turn into a fascist theocracy, which is exactly what it is becoming. You know, and yeah, it's crazy what's going on here. People need to see. I mean, these people want death and destruction. The Third World War they want to create a war between the Muslims and the Christians. But they were hoping, I think, Israel was going to survive. But Israel, I mean, the whole mechanism of Israel will survive. But Israel, the state itself, was created to be destroyed. They put it right there, smack bang in the middle of the Arab world, and said, oh, we've got to defend ourselves. How can we be seen as a colonizer? Look at all of the colonized Arab countries around us. Well, what are you doing there in the middle of it all? Colonizing a little place in the middle. You've done that in order to create this animosity to put East against West. And Israel is not meant to survive. They don't care. The rabbis that are doing this, the Kabbalistic Jews that are doing this, they want to bring about the destruction of the world. They believe that the earth was created as the embodiment of evil itself. That is the only reason the earth even exists, because it is a container for evil, and that their job is to kill evil, which means kill everybody and everything on earth, because the earth itself is evil. And then at the end of it, the rapture is simply the 144,000 Jews who will be cloned from the foreskin of their Messiah, who will then ascend Jacob's ladder once they have destroyed Amalek, which is the embodiment of evil. So they don't care about the Jewish people. They don't care about the Christians. They don't care about anything. All they care about is bringing their Messiah, because they believe their Messiah is born. Every generation their Messiah exists. All they need is the right circumstances for that Messiah to ascend the throne in the third temple, Moshiach, or whatever they call him.
Oh, yeah.
But they believe that he is born every generation he exists. He always exists in time. He's already been born. He's already here. They just need to create the circumstances whereby this war, Gog and Magog, can happen. So when Israel looked like it was about to fall, or it is about to fall, that's why they've gone for the gas fields and all this sort of shit. They've got to make it this as much destruction and death and carnage as possible, or they're not going to get their coming of their Messiah.
Yeah, let me back you up. And I will play that clip from the rabbi in just 1 second. The Jewish Moshiach is their Antichrist. And now they're talking about the Moshiach being revealed and announced as early as this week, folks. So what Max is saying may sound crazy to you, but it is crazy, but it's not crazy to them. These are deep-rooted beliefs. And at the end of the story is the destruction of the Dome on the Rock and the rebuilding of the third temple, which Jesus Christ said would never happen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are racing toward Armageddon, but it's being manufactured. Now, I want to share this clip from Frank Zappa. Max Igan is absolutely right. The same Frank Zappa, who, call him crazy if you'd like, he named one of his daughters Moon Unit. Max, he was an intellectual. He absolutely was an intellectual. Listen to this.
Could I make a statement about national defense?
Yeah.
The biggest threat to America today is not communism. It's moving America toward a fascist theocracy. And everything that's happened during the Reagan administration is steering us right down that pipe.
Oh, Mr. Zappa, you're not really serious if you're saying we're going toward a fascist theocracy.
That's right, we are. When you have a government that prefers a certain moral code derived from a certain religion, and that moral code turns into legislation to suit one certain religious point of view, and if that code happens to be very, very right-wing, almost toward Attila the Hun...
Well, then you are an anarchist. Every form of civil government is based on some kind of morality, Frank.
Morality in terms of behavior, not in terms of theology.
Okay, yeah. So interesting. 1986, the man was before his time, and even then, if you dare speak these things above your breath when speaking in condemnation of them, well, you'll probably be destroyed. And I just wanted to share that because Woodrow Wilson got it right. There is something somewhere, something so pervasive, so powerful, so all-reaching, so encompassing in the realms of business and the most powerful people in the world and most powerful people in manufacture in the country. They dare not speak above their breaths when speaking in condemnation of it. Max Igan, that was, what, 1920 the man said that? He's talking about the Zionist entity. That's what he was talking about.
Absolutely. And that's what has been in control of things for a very, very long time. But we're seeing a complete restructuring. This like as Jeff called it, the controlled demolition of the United States. This is what is happening in real time right now, and we're witnessing it. And it may not seem like it's really happening at the moment because it's just on the TV and the news. But once the fuel prices go up, once the supermarket shelves start looking more and more empty, people like the United States seriously needs to reclaim its government. It really does. And you've got to get out of this war. If there's going to be any hope of survival at all, you need to identify that you've got a real problem in the United States. This government is out of control. It's a coup. There's been a coup in the White House. It's been taken over by a foreign power. That foreign power has now been pretty much decimated. There are still fanatic Kabbalists in there who believe in this whole prophecy and all this shit. And like you were saying before, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in religion, you don't believe in Kabbalistic Jews or any of this sort of stuff. It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. They do. And they are implementing this, and it is affecting your life right now. You know, I've said this is an opportunity for human beings to stand up and just say no. Realize that we have a world that is run in the most corrupt people you can possibly imagine who is running this world. And they're getting away with everything they're doing because we just comply with it. We just let it happen. We believe that these people are legitimate rulers. The Epstein files have just revealed to you, that they're cannibalistic, child-raping pedophiles or who is running the world. Why are you believing any of their legislation is valid? Why are you going into their military and going fighting wars against people you've never met before in Iran, you have no grudge with these people whatsoever. You just don't like them because the Jewish-controlled media told you that they're bad people, but it was all lies. You know, this is a time when the only thing that's going to stop what's coming is if humanity actually steps back into their humanity and says, hey, we got this, we can do this, we don't need these rulers. All we've got to do is operate in principles of integrity, and we've got it. We can change the whole world in a single day if we just shift our perspective of our own power, our own personal power, and operate in integrity in all that we do.
Yeah.
You know, put down the fear of all this stuff that's happening because it's oh my God, bombs and wars and all this stuff, and it's terrible, and what do we do? What do we do? We just withdraw our energy from the system completely. This is the time that we can do that if people will simply believe in themselves and stand up and have their voice counted, brother.
Guys, thanks so much for being here. That concludes part 1 of my interview with Max Igan. And in part 2, we feature a startling insight into the Jews and what they believe from a rabbi who's talking about the return of their Messiah, which is their Antichrist. And he expects the announcement of that return to happen any day. I appreciate you all for tuning in, and I'll remind you every single day for free. Check us out at sgtreport.com to get the real news 24/7. And until the next one, God bless you and yours, friends.
This is what he told minor victim number 1. And this is why they were all scared to death of doing anything, because he told them harm would come to their families or to them, and he knew everything about everyone. So he said, I own the government, I own the banks, I know people, and I know things about people that can destroy this world.